It's been a decade since the firefighters last walked out. The Fire Brigade's union warns proposed changes will mean firefighters will have to work longer and pay more into their pensions, yet receive less in retirement. 80% of union members walked out. Here in the Midlands, two generations of firefighters stood side by side. David Pitt and his son David Jr. believe they'll lose out under the changes, which they say could see them having to work into their 60s.
We're here striking at West Bromwich Fire Station to give a big message out to the public that this is unsafe for firefighters and this is unsafe for members of the public.
I've been doing the job for over 2 decades, and it takes its toll upon your joints, and it's harder and harder and harder to do all the time.
In Leeds, firefighters blamed their senior management, claiming they were looking after themselves and leaving the crews to suffer.
This may be a short strike in duration, but it's already caused its fair share of disruption. The Fire Brigade's union is threatening more industrial action if it doesn't get what it wants. The government will be perhaps quietly worried that it will not want to return to the prolonged industrial action which we saw more than a decade ago. Back then, the army drove the ageing Green Goddesses. The union wanted a 40% pay rise. Eventually, the strike ended when they settled for less than half that.
We do think this strike is totally unnecessary. The age issue is something that the FBU did not even list in their points when they made the strike action and went forward with it. So that is not part of the strike action.
This time, they're training the strike breakers. Some brigades, including London and Surrey, hired private contractors to stand in. The public, though, has been warned that non-emergency calls may not be answered. This 4-hour strike has taken place in the middle of the day, away from the rush hour when the fire service is busiest. More disruption is likely.
The union described it as a warning shot, and I think very clearly it's the least they could do in terms of strike action. This will be a fairly quiet part of the war.
The strike passed off without major incident. The two sides will now resume negotiations. If no one backs down, the firefighters say they'll walk out for longer next time. Nick Martin, Sky News, Leeds.